Got it. Welcome to the BigMX Radio Supercross preview show, pregame show with me, your host, Brad Gebhart. Thank you so much for watching, letting some people file in here on the YouTube live. Like I said, I am your host, Brad Gebhart. With me on the line, the usual suspects. We've had them on the show a number of times before. He leaves without a trace. He came here tonight to get on Denny's case. Chris Riesenberg from airwheeliesonly.com, as well as Racetech. What is going on, Checkers?
I'm just excited to get back to the West Coast. It seems like forever since we've seen those guys. So I had to refresh my memory a little bit, and I'm guessing that we'll get into some conversations tonight that you guys will point some stuff out that I also didn't remember. So it should be a really fun show tonight. I'm looking forward to it. And
he got himself a brand new haircut, but it does seem like he lost a bet in the process. Denny Stevenson, welcome back to the show.
Hello, my friends. Excited to be here. Always enjoy you two's company. Always enjoy talking to you two, bringing a new, fresh style to our pregame. Seattle, like Checker said, we're going West Coast, and tons of stuff to talk about. From the East last week to Plessinger to Detroit to, man, what Supercross is the shit, and we love it, and we are cracking it right now.
Absolutely. We're going to take a look back. We're going to look forward to the race. But before that, we need to do the Racetech Rapid Recap. And before we do that, we need to have a little sponsor read from our friends over at Racetech. When you're a top 5 Supercross guy, when a top 5 Supercross guy believes so much in the product that he races with, he turns that into a business after racing. It must be that good. Dial in your suspension with Chris Blows, tuned with Phoenix suspension down there in Arizona. Once he's done racing Supercross, you can dollars to donuts. He'll be tuning some people in. So check out Phoenix suspension online, as well as all the things that Racetech has to offer. And just so you know, every time that he works on suspension, he always uses Racetech gold valves and settings. And now Checkers from Racetech.
that's right. For this Racetech Rewind, we're going to look back on Detroit with the smooth, like RT suspension recap. It's almost like Monster Energy Supercross presented by Monster Energy. And also check it out at Monster Energy and in Monster Energy Supercross 6, the game, or whatever they do on the broadcast. It's pretty ridiculous.
So much monster, so little time.
Yes. Yeah, they're all jacked up on monsters, I guess. But anyway, speaking of Monster Energy rider, Sexton wins and is eliminated from championship contention. Even when he wins, Sexton loses. Denny, what the heck? The dude just can't get it done or can't win. I mean, but he got it done, but he couldn't get it done.
Man, he rode, I think we can all agree, Chase rode his ass off, man. He passed the best. He went to the pack. He got to the lead, well, he got to second before we heard the crowd scream. And then obviously the devastation that was Aaron Plessinger hitting the deck. But you and I, you had the best comment this week when we were on text thread when you said, yeah, that, Chase wins, yet in the process loses points. And it's, as soon as he did it, we were watching, I just flew in from Arizona, from family, dropped Riley off, my son off in his car. My dad had picked us up, ran back to the house, sat down, started catching up on everything. And man, what a crazy evening. God, Chase, like I said, I was sitting there on the couch and I saw the red flags come out, red cross flag. I saw him roll to the rhythm section. I saw him seat bounce that huge double, and I tweeted about it. I'm like, man, did anyone else see that? I guarantee this might be something of concern. And I didn't know the rule book. I wasn't even trying to argue because I didn't know at the time. Checkers and I were arguing just because we like to argue on text thread. But apparently the red lights were flashing. They were in a red tough block, as it turned out. I heard from Grant Harlan. It's very hard to see that. But he seat bounced it. And then even his later interview, he kind of explained the fact that he went past Dean Wilson and he felt like the track was clear and I'm going to do what I want to do and we'll see what happens. And it just goes back to the fact I think Chase, once again, whether that be a crash or jumping on a red cross flag, shit the bed. He just went from 13 points down to got to pause with his phone, but he is slowly has eliminated himself from the title contention. And what a shame, because even though I kind of folded last week and said if he wins this week, he's going to be back in it. And he went out and did it on the motorcycle and then lost more points. So, wow. This is one thing that we all will look back on our racing careers, no matter what level we always had it. And he will look upon this day and with a little bit of regret, because he goes out, makes up the points, and loses his title somehow by 7 points. Those 7 points will haunt him till he is dead in the grave.
Yeah, pretty gnarly penalty, right? Because if he was in, say, 6th place when it's only 1 point between positions, it ends up being a 4-point penalty. But because of being in the lead and the points gaps, the way that the rule's written is pretty severe, that's for sure. But at the same point, at least he got across the finish line in first, and maybe there's some mental stuff coming there that'll help him. So we'll see. We have some outdoor venues left, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the show of whether he is really eliminated or not. I mean, it's a pretty outside shot. Being outside shot, I think it was outside of a lot of people's ideas that Aaron Plessinger would just take off and be running up front. And upset alert, March Madness meets Supercross as AP wins. Almost. Heartbreaker for the Cowboy. Brad, I think everybody was pretty bummed. I haven't seen anybody really celebrating, not even, well, except Chase Sexton until his penalty, maybe.
Yeah, honestly, like, just to go back on the Chase thing, like, winning when like you inherit the lead off of a crash, it's still got to feel good. Obviously, winning a Supercross is never a bad thing, but it's got to kind of feel like kissing your sister a little bit. Like it's the way it's not the way you dream it up by any means. And I think the entire motocross industry, their hearts pour out for Aaron Plessinger for a number of reasons, and the fact that he's really become a fan favorite, somebody who a lot of people have grown really close to, is just the way he carries himself. He's a heart on his sleeve guy. He's as red, white, and blue as American can get, and people just rally around that stuff. And he's very, very genuine. Every time that I've spoken with him, he is he's a heart on his sleeve guy, and you can totally tell that in the way he carries himself. And you know what? I hope that he gets one. I don't really cheer for a lot of guys, but I love to see good things happen to good people. And Aaron Plessinger is extremely good people, and I would love to see him get one. I would hate to, at the end of his career, look back and say this was the one opportunity where he really had this one dead to rights, and it was a gimme. Because there's a lot of guys. And the list is long of guys who never ended up getting it done, whether they had a long career or an injury-riddled career. I think of a guy like Tim Ferry. I'd say if you ask most people who watched that era and you quiz them whether or not he got a Supercross win, they'd probably tell you yeah. Or even a guy like Guy Cooper, who he led a lot of laps, but he still doesn't have a win yet. Even Adam Cianciarulo, these are guys who it's winning a Supercross after being a 125 champion is no guarantee. And he's led a lot of laps now, and he's going to be it'll be tough to win another one, because the rest of those guys they go super fast, and they're injecting even more skill and speed into the class next year, with at least one of the Lawrences for sure being there. So I was sad to see it. But honestly, he showed an amazing amount of mental and physical toughness to be able to choke back those tears and give that amazing speech at the end of the night, where he was able to just work through it. And then by the end, he had almost you could literally see it in his mannerisms, that he had almost gotten past it for a minute there, and was able to move forward. And he's on to Seattle, a track where he's done quite well at last time we saw him there on a 250F.
Yeah, Supercross. Go ahead, Danny.
We talk about, we bust a lot of chops on the show and everything, and I've been out there, to get a 250 Supercross win is monumental. What Brad just said is so true. There's so many great, incredible riders with incredible careers who never had that, and it didn't even take unique circumstances for AP to get this possible win. He rode away from the best guys. The best guys started right behind him, and he just fucking took off. And to listen to him explain the fact that he seat bounced every time to that inside rut over that jump, and then that lap for some reason decided to stand up. And the simple grabbing of the foot off the foot peg. I think we've all dealt with it, whether you're a local rider at every size bike. I think we've all kind of seen that and had to deal with it. So very well said, Brad. Yeah, it's something that I think he can rebound from, because again, it was not a unique circumstance that he pissed away. Like he proved he had the speed, proved he had the skill. He wheelied away from the best guys, and I'm excited to see how he rebounds here in Seattle. So well done, Brad. Exactly.
Well, I tell you
Appreciate
what, that we joke sometimes about Supercross being scripted, and what better script than the guy bouncing back at a mud race in Seattle potentially and grabbing that win, as he's pretty good if it becomes muddy. And who's probably the second best mud rider in the field is Justin Barcia, and Bam Bam is for real, but can't bang his way onto the podium. Barcia was really fast again for the third week in a row. Denny, what do you think about Barcia and his performance?
Well, we talked about the track, I think earlier that we felt the track was pretty basic. You could tell that when you do qualifying times and you got, 10 guys all within a second of each other. And we really weren't sure how that thing was going to play out. But, I remember an old track, I think 2017, maybe it was Minneapolis, where the track's, pretty similar. So, but in the end, it makes very good racing, as we saw in this last weekend. It was crazy to see the fact that, we saw Eli move to the front, and then we saw Bam move to the front, and we saw Webb move to the front. And then the littlest thing of somebody get moved out of the way, let like a freight train of 2 or 3 guys back past you, and then you have to start all over. And I think that was a big thing that allowed Aaron to get away as well, because he was out front running his own lap times, while the best in the crowd as well were battling each other. They were moving each other out of the way, making mistakes, protecting each other's inside lines. And I think when we thought Eli got to second, up past that he was going to be good. We thought then Bam got up there, and they just kept kind of moving each other out of the way. And little we know that Cooper Webb, man, the machine that he is, he's the one who became the cream of the crop. Well, obviously Chase had, but after the penalty, it was Cooper Webb who left there with the most points, with 23 points. And the guy's a machine. Tomac's only 3 points back now. And I think we're down to a 2-rider battle, but little do we know that such a basic track was going to provide such a great night of racing.
Yeah, I mean, I still I don't like the type of racing that the track presents, because it's really just waiting for mistakes, and it's kind of a freight train. Luckily, we just had some exciting stuff going on in the main events because of riders making mistakes and that side of things to really mix things up. But I mean, those first few heat races, especially, it was definitely a freight train around it. But it just goes to show how exciting Supercross is in general, and like the storylines are in general, that even on a track that maybe doesn't provide a lot of passing options, there still was good. It was exciting. It was great entertainment. So I mean, all the way down to the end there in the 250 class, like they did a good job of showing that storyline as well, of the top 5 and the fading blows thing, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. But you did mention Eli Tomac, and we had talked like Alito's back a little bit, or at least I did, and predicted it. And you were kind of, I think, on the fence maybe with it. But I don't think Alito or Eli showed up in Detroit. It wasn't dominant Eli, but it definitely was. I mean, it was a podium. It wasn't like an Alito Mac ride. Tomac cruised to a podium, which it wouldn't have been a podium if AP didn't crash. It was just a quiet night, but it wasn't a bad performance. What are your thoughts on that? We're going to come right back to you with this one, Denny, on Eli.
Man, it was kind of weird. You're totally correct. I think I definitely don't think Alito's back, but in track results, he could have easily been a 4th. I mean, yeah, he got shuffled. He shuffled forward, he got shuffled back, and had nothing to defend that with. And that's kind of what we haven't seen that, but also we saw a little bit of that in Indy when he had his uncomfortable neck or whatever he dealt with when he flew out there and couldn't get fixed. And then I thought we were going to start seeing true Eli in Detroit. He moved himself to the front, in the second or so, and then got worked. He got worked by Chase, got worked by Cooper, and those are his main guys in this class. And it's just great to see Barcia being a part of this group now, because I think he's always felt like he belonged, and he's riding smarter, he's riding more fluid with everybody. But yeah, Eli is he could have easily been 4th. Got a gift from Aaron, got a gift from Chase's penalty. And that we know he leaves Detroit second from the racing points with 21 points, and only loses 2 points to Cooper. So I think it's time for him to start kind of reemerging obviously he's just won 2 weeks ago and he's only 3 points back, and we it's not time to quite hit the panic button with Tomac, but I think that he needs to kind of reassert himself as the reigning champion and get that red plate back. What do you think, Brad?
Well, one thing that I think gets a little bit lost in this is the fact that they didn't take a win away from Chase Sexton. And why that's important is that if you take the win away from Chase Sexton, somebody has to win, and then they would award it to the next place rider, which would be Cooper Webb. And then you'd have KTM petitioning the AMA to award him the 26 points, which would be an extra point difference between him and Eli on this particular event. So we'd be rolling into Seattle with a 4-point split, not a 3-point split, which doesn't sound like a lot, but every point counts in a race like this, as well as the fact that you would have awarded Cooper Webb 26 points instead of 22, which would be an extra 3 points over on top of Chase. So Chase would actually be 20 points down instead of 17 points down, which makes his current situation even worse. I like what ended up getting done with the whole thing. Honestly, like this like you guys are right. This wasn't Eli Tomac. This wasn't Elito Mac. This was Eli Tomac with a white number plate, which is a really weird thing to see. It's something I feel like we haven't seen that since he was on 250s. Actually, we were doing black plates back then, but regardless, honestly, it was just weird to see. And honestly, the fact that he passed Cooper Webb and then Cooper Webb was able to get back to him really tells me that he wasn't at the height of his powers. But it wasn't one of those weirdo eighth place rides that we've seen him have in the past. So I think what we really saw was the best that he had on that particular night, which wasn't 100% Eli, but he was still able to sort of mitigate the damages, move forward. And I don't think Eli Tomac is worried about being 3 points down whatsoever. You can nullify that in one great weekend at the track. And we all know that he is damn good at a place like Seattle, where he's going to get a good start. He's going to be able to put the bike where he wants to put it. And I'm pretty optimistic about him being able to bounce back at Seattle. And then this other place called Glendale, Arizona, where he is an absolute god.
For sure. Definitely interesting the way that the season has gone is Eli started it stronger than he's ever started a season. And usually now is when he's laying the hammer down on everybody. And he's still in this thing, absolutely in it. And those guys better watch out, because as soon as they think they're getting comfortable, we're going to Seattle where he's also really good. And then we're also going to a speedway, which he's proved good. So definitely no panic for Tomac. The other thing that you pointed out about not taking the win away is if for some crazy event, which is not surprising with the title being this close, if we come into a tiebreaker situation, the win is a tiebreaker. That's that first tiebreaker is most wins. So
that's right.
For Webb not to notch that column and for Sexton to notch it is important for both of them if we get down to that. So let's shift gears down to the 250 class, where probably there's as far as the win's concerned, it's more talking about the way that the media is handling stuff. The Jet brothers reach all-time status in Detroit. Hunter tells the media it isn't right to compare himself to champions after dominating victory.
There's one champion between the two of them.
It may have been the worst performance ever from Dan Hubbard, and I'm very hard on him anyways. Between the Jet brothers comments.
Dan. I feel bad for Dan.
Well, he might be a very, very nice person, but
he's very, very nice. I wish he was better.
That question to Hunter to start the press conference was absolutely disgusting and terrible. But anyways, one of you guys can take it away. I have it set up for you, Brad, but telling Hunter he's one of the best ever without a title is unreal. That's ludicrous.
So
absolutely.
He got 2 more wins than I do.
Yeah, he has 2 more wins than Denny does. And honestly, he would basically have to win out the rest of the year and then still have a decent year next year in order to pass James for all-time wins. And for all intents and purposes, James probably should have had 3 titles, not 2, including 1 year, which happened to be a perfect season. And let's also not forget the fact that Ricky Carmichael only has 1 title in that class because he decided to only race that series for 2 years. It's absolutely ludicrous to be able to say that. Honestly, the thing like I said, I like Dan. Dan didn't follow the sport, or at least not very closely in the 90s, I'm sure. So he's completely unaware of all the sort of nuances that is 250 Supercross. And I think that's his effort to sort of like just hype everything up, and that's something that like the Supercross, that's so on brand for them to promote first and foremost the cool things that are happening right now. And do they cross the line on some of that stuff sometimes? Absolutely. But at the same time, that's why they call it a race promoter. A promoter is they have to promote what's going on right now, as well as like the whole circus around it. By no means was that an accurate statement by him, and I'm sure if he had another chance to go about that, he wouldn't say it that way. I think sometimes like even like it kind of blows my mind that like even guys like Jet and Hunter, it's gotten to the point where like the media, or in this case Feld, the promoter, is like kind of blowing so much smoke up their ass that they themselves are like, hey, that's enough. It's getting hot in here. If you're going to do all that, like, I can't even imagine what they would have been saying about Denny during his illustrious 1990 season, where he just looked like he was on top of the world. He would have been the next Jeff Stanton or something along those lines, or the next RJ, because at that in 90, Jeff Stanton wasn't even Jeff Stanton yet, really. But yeah, kind of it was a misplaced comment. Like the Lawrence brothers, they're awesome. They're also still in the 250 class, and they're not even out of it yet. So I'm not placing any crowns on their heads just yet, given the fact that we if you've been paying attention to the sport in the last 30 years, you've seen a lot of really impressive performances in that class over the years. But yeah, it sort of is what it is. I didn't like it. I'm not a hater by any means on either one of these guys. Their legacy is going to be awesome, and to be honest, I think both of these guys are going to be even more impressive on a 450, especially Hunter, honestly, than they were on 250Fs. And that chapter is yet to be written.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the circus, and I don't want Supercross to be a circus, so I promise positivity tonight. So I'm gonna not beat that dead horse anymore. Other than I would like it to be treated more like a sport than a little more sport and a little less Monster Jam. Is what I would personally prefer, but maybe I'm wrong. So we'll move on. We'll move on to another controversial topic. How about that? But I don't have to touch it. I'll let Denny handle it. Old Dog gets tricked in the Big D. Smith only gets treated to defeat by Deegan. Denny, what is your take on this whole thing? I know what it is, and for once, I think we really completely agree on a very controversial topic.
Well, I'll give you 100% credit on Jordan Smith, and I'll give you 100% credit on Chris Lewis. I think you've, we love to argue and banter and stuff, but we love the sport and we love to make predictions. And you made two fantastic ones. And I think we're all completely shocked when Jordan Smith got the star ride. It was something out of the blue that I don't think any of us really thought was going to happen or was deserved. But then once I saw the season playing out, I really thought Jordan was going to turn things around. He'd gotten on a very much different brand. He got away from the Millsap train facilities down in Florida at the goat farm with Star riding with all these guys. And I thought, okay, we're going to see a switch being flipped by Jordan Smith. He's on the number one team to be on for a 2D rider. And you just were adamant. Every time when he crashed in practice, like, there he goes. When he crashed in a heat race, you're like, there he goes. You're like, there he goes, and it crashes in a main event. And he did. He like clockwork. I mean, it's I'm not bashing the guy. There's no way. I mean, he's obviously made a living racing a dirt bike. He's very talented, very good rider. But the mental aspect of racing a dirt bike is probably easily forgotten. It's not quite given as much credit to. I think being clutch, I think, is something I use a lot. When you line up on that gate and you got to get some job done, you got to get it done. And being the veteran in the 2D class and seeing the shit that went down with him and Hayden, I will never not admit that I'm a Deegan fan just for my longtime relationship with the family and stuff. But it was definitely outrageous, the heat race we were watching. I think we all sat there on our couch and went, what the hell's going on here? The two definitely had some type of history going on that was playing out in front of us on live television that we did not know about. Some type of animosity, some type of shit has been going on the track, or whether or not at the practice facility back home. But the veteran of Jordan Smith let a 17-year-old rookie escalate things, and instead of being the wiser of the two, he kind of just let it happen and got right into it, and then put himself on the ground. Knock someone down with your front wheel, as we saw, and then boom, down 2 more times. Boom, goes to LCQ. Has to go, tries to go around guys on the outside in the last chance qualifier. I mean, what the fuck, man? I wouldn't trust going around the outside you checkers at a bar. You be knocking on the ground trying to steal my drink or my lap dance. So yeah, it was on my part was unexpected. It was something you've called out for a while. So yeah, well done. And I think Jordan Smith has a lot to recover from. He has a 1-year deal. He's like your brother said the best thing, that Deegan is Star's future and Jordan Smith is a 1-year rental. So whose side are they going to choose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I gotta say is, are you entertained? It was amazing for the sport of Supercross in general because of the eyeballs that it got on it. Whether you agree with people or not, it has people talking about Supercross. And the fact is, we talk about all the time when guys get into slamming wars. I make the joke of they're going to go eat cotton candy in row F. Well, the fact of the matter is, Deegan did not put Jordan Smith up in row F. Jordan Smith was up in row F eating cotton candy because he made bad choices trying to make the main event after he got up from the crash, let alone any of the stuff that went on with Deegan. Was it over the top? It was over the top, but that's what you're going to get with him. You get that with Barsha at times, and especially a younger Barsha a lot.
Oh my God.
It's entertainment, and we're here in the entertainment business. We're not racing against them. If you don't want people to race that way, that's okay. But I hope that racing like that continues, because I'm here for the entertainment of it. If they played follow the leader, we wouldn't have anything to talk about it, and it would just be boring. And I'm sorry, but Jordan Smith, I don't care if he's your teammate or not. After the whoops to start it all, he tried to go around the outside of his teammate. He multiple times got himself in bad situations over and over throughout the night by trying to pass on the outside. And I think that's the result of him always being extremely fast. No one's ever doubted his speed. I've continuously, time after time, doubted his racecraft, and it proved to be true once again. Just mistake after mistake after mistake. And even something as simple as pulling off out in the heat race instead of finishing it and trying to get a couple better gate picks, because that start was pretty short and pretty tight and it narrowed down a lot. So being on the outside, it was a really dangerous spot to be. At least he didn't fall down. But then you have to be smart enough to let things sort out on that first lap. When you have the speed that he has, you can let the race sort out a little bit, makes you avoid trouble on the first lap, and then make your charge to the front. I understand he hasn't been in a lot of LCQs, but that is some pretty common racecraft. And somebody on that team should have been sitting down with him, calming him down, getting him focused for that LCQ. And I blame them just as much for not going through that, because I'm guessing that there was a bunch of arguing and stuff going on in the truck and a lot of heated tempers. So instead of regrouping mentally for it, he's sitting here getting himself more amped up. So,
and he was simply, like you said, he was 3 seconds lap faster than those guys in the last chance qualifier. I mean, all he had to do.
Oh, he was on rails.
On rails. He rode an outstanding race. I mean, there's nothing to take away from him. And what he did in those last 2 laps to get into a qualifying position was unreal and fucking awesome to watch. I think we were all.
Did you see when he almost died in the whoops? When someone either crashed or swerved next to him, and he almost caught them. He could have died a million deaths during that LCQ.
All someone had to tell him was, like Checker said, dude, this is your race, man. Just don't blow it. Settle in. You're way faster than these guys, which he was, and he proved it. But the mental aspect got the best of him again, and what a shame, because it was, I really thought he was going to be, had a good shot in the main event with his teammates Thrasher and Deegan, and then Checker says the entertainment value. Dude, after the race, Deegan was trending on Twitter. I mean,
for 2 days.
I mean, that's enormous, man. And that is, as we've said, and then the stupid questions were asked of him after the fact in the press conference. I've said it again. I'll say it again as well, that Deegan does not need Moto Media. He's fine. They need him far more than he needs them. And the stupid questions should cease.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think it's the smartest move as far as trying to win a championship. And I mean, Carmichael is really famous for always saying that. And McGrath was actually even more famous. He's like, I tried not to start wars with guys, and I wanted to be their buddies so that I didn't have to deal with that stuff. But so far in Deegan's career, I've watched him come up since he was on 50s. He's raced like that. He's raced really aggressive. He's raced like he's the alpha and pushed people around. And I haven't really ever seen it bite him back yet. does he do that to somebody like Hunter Lawrence? And Hunter is very good at that as well, and very capable of matching him speed and talent wise. Does he maybe get him back? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if it comes back to bite him. He's not making any friends, but what he is doing is asserting himself that he's not going to be pushed around. He's going to race you hard. Doesn't care what color motorcycle you're on. Doesn't care what name is on the back of your jersey. And we'll see where that holds for the future for Hayden Deegan. It's maybe not the best way to win a title, but again, just like I said, I am all for it because it keeps me entertained and
youthful exuberance. We can never have enough of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of never changing, zombies never die, and neither does the jabbing between Denny and I.
The opposite side of youthful exuberance is Chris Blows.
Right. Grandpa Blows and Denny and I jabbing. Blows finally gets the top 5 that we've talked about. I have to gloat about it for a second because, well, let's just say that Denny very passionately didn't think he was going to get it done, and I very passionately thought he was. Pretty ridiculous. He turned pro in 2005, so he's been pro for 19 years. Meaning, I mean, Deegan was Deegan even born? No, he was not even born. I put in my notes that he was in diapers when Blows got his first top 5, but Deegan wasn't even born yet when he turned pro.
No.
But Blows gets his 5th top 5, but the first one since 2009. So first one in 4 years. He has
second one in 45 races.
No, he has five top 5s.
No, not 250. 250 class. This is only his second top 5 in 45 races. He only has one top 5 prior.
I looked up the stats to verify.
I swear we went through this earlier. I don't know. Anyways,
you were an outstanding
ride.
You were wrong as normal, but
I'm putting 5. I'm putting 5th asterisk, because just to fuck with you. But anytime you run well and you're the older statesman in the class, and you get this opportunity you had with Pro Circuit, I think we can all agree that it was an outstanding ride. I didn't think he was going to have it, dude, but it did take Anstey crashing out and Smith not qualifying and Viale not being smart enough or wanting to kill him, because man, those last 2 laps, those two looked like an LCQ because they were like literally just riding around. Viale couldn't jump the fucking the Dragon's back, protecting a lot of inside lines, but nonetheless, you were correct, and I will definitely give you the win on this one, brother.
Well, yeah, it was they might have been like almost 40 seconds behind the leader, and their tongues were definitely in the spokes, but it honestly happened just like I told you it was. I didn't say that he was ever going to get it based on he's just going to rip and speed wise. I said literally, I reminded Denny when it happened that it said it's going to be because all the other 250 guys are going to crash their brains out or get injured and not be on the starting line, and he's just going to be solid and ride his way there. And I can tell you the last couple laps of that main event when they're showing the battle, which couldn't be any more fitting that they're showing mine, and it's like, this is mine and Denny's battle. This is for us.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm on the edge of my seat. I see Bush just tired as can be. And I'm like, dude, just come on. Like, the one thing I knew is he's a very good racer, and it was a hard track to pass on, and Chris was going to run the insides, and he wasn't going to let Vial go around the outside of him. So that's the only thing I had going for me. But I guess now that the Fat Air Wheelie King is sung, can you take us west, where hopefully the only water falling is tears from Debo's eyes, as it's always a risk of rain in Seattle?
It's never as bad as Ken winning. What were you saying, Brad?
I was going to say, I believe it's raining there right now, but the prognosis for the actual race day is that we won't have any rain.
I don't know. I saw 7 p.m. 40% chance. I just looked on weather.com. And yeah, so I hope not. I hope you're correct. But yeah, I just Googled it earlier to check it out. And everybody speaks rain, and Seattle is obviously known for it. But God, I hope not. We always wonder, why wouldn't they put a roof on that damn place?
Yeah. Bigger question as to why the local stadium here is not a dome, given the fact that it's -10 outside right now. Yeah, open air stadiums in inclement weather is always kind of mind blowing. They play at this race is where the Seahawks play, correct?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, that's a very interesting stadium, because it's also pretty close to it's very coastal. Like, it's not like inland whatsoever. It's a spot where it can happen all the time. So I think it's going to be an interesting race regardless. Throw some moisture in there. We haven't had a mutter in quite some time. So you know what? I'd be for it.
Yeah. Agree. It changes things up. I mean, it's never not great to watch, but
No.
when I believe it was David Geffen who built that stadium, and it is one of the loudest in the country, or with the NFL games. And I remember one of the years when I was there, it might have been, I don't know if it was Smith or doing the TV show, and the track was very sandy, and it rained and rained and rained, but the sand really held the water very well. It didn't become, like Anaheim mud or,
Right.
type deal. And it really shaped up to kind of a crazy race. So I don't know what the dirt will be this weekend, if it's something similar, if they've changed it, but it could be good.
Was it here or was it Salt Lake the one year? I want to say it was either 06 or 07 when like all the straightaways were just like just beat out ruts, and like Kevin Windham and I want to say Davey Millsaps were just like stupidly good at it.
Yeah, I remember that race. The whoops were literally straight line slot cars. I think Creighton was actually really good that night too.
I think so.
But yeah, it was
when I did
crazy.
TV in 06, the very first round was in Canada, and I believe in Toronto or Vancouver.
Oh God, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I remember racing up there for arena cross as well. And yeah, when they got those slot car type tracks through the whoops, I mean, we had Tacoma arena cross one year. I think 02 was my last year. It's very similar to what Ken was doing in Detroit or in Indy with that whoop section. I mean, the balance it takes, the skill level it takes, and yeah, that's some gnarly shit. When you're going from one end of the arena or stadium to the other end of the stadium in one slot car, yeah, that's a whole nother style of racing than what we're used to watching or even experiencing.
No kidding. All right. Is that the end of the
yeah, that is our recap, the Fat Air League King Sung with the zombie blows thing. It's all dope. It's a wrap. We're on to Seattle. And I mean, we talked about the weather a lot, and Webb's 3 points, Sexton's back 17. But is Plessinger okay after the crash? Like, that was a big hit, right? Like, do we see him bounce back?
The way he folded his head when he was going down, like he tucked and rolled, obviously, but he wasn't really in a full tuck and roll position for him to tuck his head under. And yeah, he lit himself up. I would have to agree. And it was something similar that we kind of saw when Moseman went down in Daytona. When you are in between that, legs over your head or just folding your head. Yeah, Aaron, we haven't heard anything, and I hope he's okay. But yeah, it could have been a little bit more gnarly than we thought. That neck injury, head injury, the emotional level, holy cow.
Yeah, he folded himself like a lawn chair. I'll be interested to see if he does bounce back properly. He said he did have a laceration on his leg, which these guys race with stuff like that all the time. So I don't think that's going to hold you back. And whether it's a Toradol shot or just the adrenaline that sort of sets in during the race, I don't think that's going to hold him back during the main events at all. He probably didn't ride much this week. I think in general, he was probably just sore. And I know they're based over on the East Coast. So honestly, the biggest problem for a guy like AP for this weekend might be being sore, as well as the fact that the main event's the gate drop for the main event's gonna be midnight his time.
Right. It'll be interesting because, like we talked about the ruts too. The last time we were on a super ruddy track, remember the Kickstart Kenny RM Army took home the win over in Indianapolis, but this is usually a different type of ruddy track where Indy's really, really sticky. The Seattle ruts, typically it's more of like a sandy, loamy dirt, and it kind of blows out a little bit, and they're deeper and wider. So do we see Roxon do really well on the technical track again, or is it still just kind of inconsistent Kenny no matter what? Denny, what do you think on that?
I thought Kenny rode really well in Detroit. I think I don't think any of us really expected him to rebound with another win. It was going to be a different track, way far different than Indy, with no, like you said, no ruts, more smoother. But I guarantee, I think you guys would agree, if Ken gets a good start, he starts up front with that lead pack. He's right there. He kind of reeled those guys in. He didn't have Sexton type speed where he's going to go through the pack, but he didn't have that type of speed at Indy when he won. He got out front and led and did what Ken does, very solid, consistent laps. And I think if he would have got the similar start in Detroit, he would have been right there in the mix. So I'm a little surprised that Not surprised. I mean, I am surprised. The kid got to win. I never predicted it. They've got that bike working very well. I thought that, I think we talked about as well, the more technical rutted track, I think kind of suited Ken's style, that he was more technical with the bike. Everything was going to work really well. And then with Detroit being almost completely different type track, a little bit smoother, not the ruts, kind of more flowing. He laid down some fast qualifying times, rode well in this heat race. And again, I think if he would have got a start up there with the lead pack, he would have been in the mix right with them again. So heading to Seattle, I think the team's pumped. I know that our friend Travis Sewells is pumped. Hep, those guys are in a good mood. I'm not sure really what happened to Chiz and McElrath last weekend. They didn't quite repeat their performances from Indy, but I think the Ken train is rolling right now. He's got some confidence and stuff, and his insistence of staying in the U.S. and riding the outdoor nationals, I think, blows us away a little bit. We don't know if he's working an angle to work the race World Supercross for more money or what the deal is, but yeah, if he's going to be here all summer and for the rest of the year, Ken will always have to be something to deal with. And yeah, I'm impressed with the way he rebounded last week after a win. It wasn't a big letdown, I don't believe.
No, I thought he rode really well. I mean, in the heat race, he was there and he was in the mix in the main event. He just was behind the pack for the most part. And it's no surprise to me that when he quit switching freaking suspension companies and quit screwing with the bike over and over again, and has had a platform to work from that he actually knows what he's riding, he starts to do better. It's almost like he should have maybe played less games in the off season, had that setting going in, and then left his motorcycle alone and rode it. And maybe the rest of the beginning of the season would have been even better. But I do expect the trend to continue for him to at least be up battling near the top 5. I'm not sold on him winning more races, but he is one of the most talented guys in the field going to a technical track.
Yeah,
moving on to
throwing Kenny and Barsha in every weekend to be a part of this whole series is and getting between maybe Tomac and Webb. I think that adds a whole new drama to the series. Absolutely, I think you guys would agree on that as well.
Who would have called those two being a thorn in the side of the championship contenders over top of Jason Anderson, who has been essentially invisible aside from 2 wins at the Triple Crowns? Like, the only person that you see less than Christian Craig on race day is Jason Anderson. He has been he's been subpar. There's no other way to say it. He has not been himself all year long.
The only time we tend to see El Hombre is when they show him on the ground. And I almost felt bad our last episode because I was calling him a 4th or 5th place guy, and I kind of forgot it. He had gotten a 2nd and 3rd prior because we've just seen him run 4th and 5th. And then when I interviewed him for Race Day Live or somehow during the night on a Saturday or during the day on Saturday, he said, dude, I've been a 4th or 5th place guy. And the fact that he looks at himself as that as well, and you can see that his enthusiasm has definitely waned, because he's usually a great interview, a lot of positivity, a lot of I'm a big fan of Jason, as we all are. When he's doing well, he radiates it, but he is feeling the pressure, he's feeling the frustration. And once again, he's there in the kind of the pack, and then the camera flashes back to the section he's laying in, and it's silly crashes too. It's like tucking the front end in the corners, pushing the front end. It's just nothing spectacular. It's not a big gnarly crash. It's just a mental mistake that he is unable to eliminate right now. And yeah, it's crazy to see that we all thought he would come, after coming off 7 wins that he did last year and being a title contender. It's Cowie's got to be wondering, and as we all are, that where is El Hombre? Where is he gone?
Well, interestingly enough, though, for one, his starts have gone away. He was a great starter last year. He was at the front of the field a lot, but also it has to bring into question a little bit the move to New Mexico and out of California, and out of having Brock Tickle with him day in and day out, babysitting him maybe a little bit. I mean, we've seen this before. Anderson came off of his championship year, and the next following year was one of his worst years that he's had. So did he kind of take it a little too easy, thinking, okay, I got it, I have a good base? Or is he, it's not a new motorcycle, so he shouldn't be fighting with the bike? There can be so much speculation, but I think it really comes down to, it's the starts, but are the starts not good because his confidence isn't there because the riding's not there? Or is it something else related to where the starts are causing the results in riding not to be there? Because the speed's still there, hit and miss. It's just not as consistent, which is part of what leads me to wonder about the move and not having that consistency in his program, which is what you see from the guys that are there week in and week out. Their program is very, very consistent and steady. So we're running out of time for Anderson to get a win, and his results are tapering off versus getting better right now. And I don't know. I mean, I think we need to see some hard pack races if he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I don't see Jason pulling a win out of his ass right now. It's just not. Like I said, it goes back to Eli. And obviously, Cowboys can start because Cianciarello is up front every weekend with his starts. And Jason, this is a Jason Anderson that we've seen in the past. Definitely not the one we saw last season.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll dive into some more of that when we get to our versus challenge questions. And I know that I have some stuff set up for the 250 class, but we have some really cool storylines there. Don't worry. I'm sure we'll hear plenty about Jet and more Jet, and Jet will be crammed down our throats a lot on Saturday night. But it will be interesting to see. RJ Hampshire is back healthy now. You know, he had that 450 race to kind of boost his confidence maybe a little bit too. And you know, maybe he'll come back down thinking, well, I've raced with the big dogs now. You guys are nothing. And then McAdoo also should be back healthy after his huge crash that he had at A2 that, you know, he soldiered himself through. I don't think either of those guys are really in title contention unless things go catastrophically wrong for Jet. But maybe they'll at least be able to give him a little bit more challenge. Brad, anything else you want to add on Seattle before I go to last year's results?
No, I think we've just about covered it, guys. Like, this is going to be a really technical racetrack, and what I really hope it does, I hope it drops the speeds a little bit and has these guys just in each other's back pocket and allows for some good racing.
Absolutely. So I took a peek back and looked at last year's results, and Tomac won, and then Barsha was fifth, but the rest of the top five don't even matter, don't need to be talked about because they weren't going to be at the race. So there's nothing to really cover with last year's results. So I figured we go a little further back in history. And Denny, can you tell me the story about the Rent to Denny Seattle Smooth Tour? Because that's one of my favorite all-time stories.
Wow. Yeah. My longtime friend Steve Mathis had been discussing it on the Pulp Show, and Moser had decided to take him up on it. Him and the rest of the crew up there in Seattle decided to Buell, and they decided, yeah, we're gonna fly Debo into Seattle. And then actually, I don't think I even flew into Seattle. I flew into another city, and they picked me up
Spokane or something.
They picked me up in a station wagon. It's got, Debo rental on the rear window. They handed me a T-shirt, and then they proceeded to try and take turns to drink me under the table. Obviously, alcohol has been a fun and exciting game for me over the years. That's great. Sometimes more problems than good, but they tried to one at a time drink me on the table, and I basically had to drink four of them under the table, and it got a little chaotic. So as I said, when you want to bring Debo to a party and you want to act like it's a party, you're going to get the party. But yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, his dad was a trooper. It was pretty chaotic on my part, and I always apologized. And they're great sports of it. And I talked to them today, and I consider them family from that. We've all survived that weekend, and I'm pretty sure that at the end of that they were willing to drive me out to some Washington desert and bury me in the sand somewhere just to end it. But yeah, I ran into chicken like on Saturday night. I missed the race. It was pure chaos. There's no shame to my game of that. And I definitely, I think I yelled at Kenny Watson and getting passes at one time because he fired Josh Hill. So it was pure chaos at the best. And I always joke with them like, hey man, we need like a redemption weekend sometime. And, but yeah, the Rena Debo, I think it was 2017, I believe. Yeah, that was next level. So kudos to them for having me. And, I'm just happy I survived.
Once again, but were you entertained is all you needed to tell them.
That's all you need. They got what they wanted. Let's be honest. They invested in an experience, and they got the full experience.
I've been down that road a few times, and thankfully our Loretta's trip was much less entertaining, but just as much fun.
It was too fucking hot down there, man. Jesus Christ. It was miserable. Someone just asked me about that. I was talking with your Jen's friend, Elizabeth. She's like, wanted to go hang out at Loretta's. And I'm like, it is so hot and so miserable. I don't think you want to experience that. I had a great time hanging out with Chex and Jen and everybody, but man, when you're sweating out a T-shirt by 8 a.m., that's just too much.
Yeah, when it was too hot to even hang out at the beer tent, then you know that it was way too hot.
Yeah. And Biden, and our friend Matt Biden's going back. What is he thinking?
And he's riding. That's the worst part. The riding part is really miserable.
It's
Sit
an
in gear and
man.
ride that track. Yeah, I'll leave that to the kids. I'll be sitting in front of a fan trying not to die all week under the tent. But
yeah. I'll never forget. I went up to Kevin Windham during one of the races, and he's standing there with his full beard, and he looks at me, he goes, "Denny, I'm Kevin Windham." I'm like, well, it took me a second with the beard, but I know who you are, Kevin. And then we stood with him, and we ran into Ivan Tedesco, and we're bullshitting. And me and Kevin are just soaking our t-shirts. And Ivan, being your favorite rider and Mr. GQ Vanity Fair, like he doesn't even have a bead of sweat. His beard is perfect. His hair is perfect. Yeah, I thought it's like, man, it's good to be young, you kid.
It's the Mexican blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Built for that.
He probably had a hoodie on in his back pocket.
That's too fun. All right, guys, it's time to move on to our next segment brought to you by MXD360.com. This is Denny's specialty. It's the Dash for Cash, and you can sign up to win the King's gear. It is not too late. I'm sure you could probably still amass enough points to pass me in the BigMX Radio League. If you make a team, DM me your team name, and you're probably without even playing, you probably have more points than me. But we're actually going to get into that a little bit later on. But it's time for the Dash for Cash. This is Denny Stevenson's absolute bread and butter when he raced all those arena cross races. Yeah, the championships were more of a Budman thing. With the Dash for Cash, that is right up to Denny's alley. And if you're not playing MX360.com just yet, you need to. It is such a fun game. Go check it out, guys. You will not be disappointed unless you're like me and make extremely bad picks. But this is where we get the whole shot and sprint questions, just like the King. That was his deal. He'd get the whole shot, sprint for 10 laps, and then just collect those big old Honda checks, or sometimes it was Yamaha checks, and every so often it was a Suzuki check. But Debo, are you ready for these questions where you have to get the whole shot and sprint away?
Let's do it. What do you got?
All right. Debo, can one of the West Coast riders beat Jet Lawrence in Seattle?
Yeah, I think we can all agree. I think the only person who's going to beat Jet is Jet. You know, Cameron's riding well. He still can't. He can't break the Hampshire second place that RJ's been laying down. Jet seems to be the fact that he has realized that, you know, riding 85-90% is all he needs, and is what he's been doing. I think he's obviously head and shoulders of the head of the pack right now, and either Cam or RJ are going to need a mistake from Jet to get a win, which we've seen. He made a mistake in the Triple Crown, didn't get the overall, stayed off. But if Jet can stay off the ground, it's his race to lose.
Certainly, and over the next few weeks, and there is a couple of weeks off in there, he'll make his own bid for being the greatest 250 racer of all time. Not even going to go there right now. All right, Checkers, if you were one of the 35, 45 Supercross privateers, would you be loading up the truck and heading off to Seattle?
If I'm not based on the West Coast, that drive that they're going to be doing right now from Detroit to Seattle is like 2,300 miles. There's a good chance that it's going to rain and be muddy, and you're going to destroy your motorcycle. Yeah, you're going to catch me heading down to the Little Rock, Arkansas Arena Cross, and then next weekend's an off weekend, so I'm going to hit up the Louisville Arena Cross. I'm going to, probably make the main events there, put some money in my pocket versus spending a bunch of money. Unless I'm one of the guys that, has my bike in a transport service and I'm flying in, then absolutely you'd catch me there. But other than that, you're going to catch me doing those. And then I'm going to miss Phoenix, I guess, because I'm not going to drive all the way out for one race for that. So I guess I'm going to hit up the old Riverside Raceway for the Iowa State Championship Pro-Am and make some money. Okay, maybe I'm kidding about that unless you're local to there. But I'm going to hang out and find a local race or regroup for a week and see you in Atlanta. I'm not going on that trip back and forth across the country unless I have somebody else hauling my bike and I'm flying in, because it's also just mentally taxing on you driving that long. You get so far out of your routine and stuff, and it's, I would say, for what if you're not West Coast based and having to stay out there and stuff. So see you
Seattle's a long fucking ways away. I remember being in Southern California in 1988 and going up to race, I think the 250 class at the time, because I was riding 125 East, and I'm like, oh Dad, I'll just jump in the box van with you instead of buying a flight. Literally, I realized it's 18 fucking hours from Southern California. Even it's a long drive. I mean, it is up there in the middle of nowhere. And and the cost of gas these days, I think we both saw Logan Carnow tweet about a $1,000 plane ticket to just get up there, and I think I'd commented and said, man, you shouldn't pass up those Bang Brothers dollars.
That was pretty funny. You guys didn't see that he got approached at the airport because he was in all his OnlyFans stuff. So gotta love Logan. Hopefully he puts it back into Maine to make some of that plane ticket money back.
When in doubt, do porn to get to the races.
Now, I don't know if he's well equipped to do porn, although they have categories for just about anything. Debo, you've been pretty vocal that the West is deeper than the East. So where would Nate Thrasher, who's currently second in points in the East Coast, where would he slot in on the West Coast right now?
Well, he's incredibly fast, and but he's an incredible crasher too. So he kind of fits into the stereotype of Cameron and RJ. So I think he'd be right there in the mix with those two riders as well. I don't know, he obviously hasn't really beat Hunter straight up yet. We argued about this the other week. I think Hunter has everything he needs to battle his brother Jet right now in Supercross. Their statistics are almost identical. I think I sent a text the other day that he has one more podium than his brother, but yet one less championship. I think Thrasher could be right in there with the other two guys. It's been a crazy 2D season. So many injuries already, as we've talked about. With Shimoda, Hammaker, obviously. But I think Thrasher could be totally in the mix with Cam and RJ and crashing just as spectacularly as they've proven time and time again as they do.
Yeah, both 250 titles right now are all but wrapped up, and it's actually kind of sad. Like, there's still good racing, and thanks to Deegan, taking double look backs and slamming his teammates, we have something to talk about. But aside from that, like, the actual results, like week to week, have been maybe the most irrelevant results we've ever seen in that class. Like we're having to sort of build up the drama and talk about the battle for 5th and 6th or 7th, 2nd and 3rd, because it's the Lawrence brothers are so head and shoulders above everybody else that it is pretty ridiculous. Checkers.
Absolutely.
Enzo Lopes has been really impressive on a support team on the West Coast that I think that you all agree is deeper now. Max Anstey has been surprising on the East Coast, but which one of them has actually been better?
Yes, Denny, I did agree with you that the West is deeper at this point, by the way. You have Enzo 6th in points. He doesn't have a podium. He only has one top 5. But again, he's racing what I would think is a little deeper field. But Max has been really, really good. And other than his 22nd, which dropped him down to 5th in points, he has 3 podiums and has been in the top 5 every single race. And weaker coast or not, Anstey, in my opinion, has more consistently been there in the main events. Lopes is a lot younger, though, and hasn't quite figured out the racing stuff. I think Lopes has a lot higher ceiling, and he's continuing to build and doing great. But right now, this year, Max is better and doing better. I think if you match them up on the same coast week in and week out, that Max would be the guy that would be in front.
I can't argue with me there. I think Max has just the raw speed and the consistency of being on the podium shows me that he's extremely impressive. Debo, give me your prediction for the top 5 in Supercross points for the end of the season.
I posted something earlier this week, or just even maybe today. I'm so excited to see this points battle go down between Cooper and Eli. I think this is going to be something we saw, which with Eli and Ryan Dungey, 2 of the best racecraft people in the sport right now, between Webb and Tomac. And these 2, I think this is going to carry to the last round of Salt Lake City. I'm still a Tomac fan and think he's going to repeat, but man, Webb has been blowing my mind at how consistent he's been, how just resilient he's been. The fucker just is a badass. He knows how to race. He knows how to win titles, and he does it so just under the radar. Who would have thought he was the guy that came out in second or with the most points in last weekend? I don't think if you even look back at the race, you wouldn't even consider that. But Webb is a beast. Eli's a beast, and I'm really looking forward to see how this thing turns out. I think Sexton's going to keep knocking out solid results. I think he's out of the title hunt. You don't make up these type of points on 2 riders like Webb and Tomac. I think Kenny's going to keep getting better, doing this thing. I think Barsha is going to end up passing Anderson. I think Barsh is actually going to catch rocks, and so I could see it going. I'm going Tomac, Webb, Sexton. Not too far. I think Sexton's going to catch those guys in points, but he's just not to make it enough of a battle. But I can see him winning the finale. But yet Webb and Tomac being so concerned about each other that they let Sexton run away with it while they kind of fuck with each other and deal with lappers, as we saw in Vegas that 1 year. And then I see Roxon getting passed by Barsha, but I see Barsha, Bam in fourth, and then Kenny in fifth. And that's a fantastic year on that Suzuki. I don't think we ever thought that. And then Barsha is always been a top five guy. I think we're just seeing some more flashes of brilliance we've seen from him lately.
I like it. Checkers. I hear that Race Tech Gold Valves are 100% guaranteed to exceed even your highest expectations. So give me 3 things that have exceeded your expectation in the 450 class this year.
Yes, that is true. They are 100% guaranteed. And it's almost like the marketing guy for Race Tech wrote the script with all the Race Tech Gold Valves mentions in there.
Can we give one of these away?
Yeah, we can give one away for sure. You have to figure out I answer the question while I'm doing that. You're going to figure out how you want to give it away, or if it's going to be just somebody random that tweets us or something like that, if you want to ask a question or something. But as far as who's exceeded my expectations, or things that have exceeded my expectations in the 450 class, I had very, very low expectations for Ken Roczen and the Suzuki. So the HEP team 100% is at the top of that list. Kenny getting a win was really, really cool. And the podium. I'm also surprised that Chiz really hasn't been chizzing. I saw a video of him last week trying to go for a pass around 2 guys at the end of the whoops, absolutely lawn darting himself, cleaning out both of them, running his teammate off the track and then cleaning himself out. Like, holy crap, that is not Kyle Chisholm. He needs to settle down. He's getting a little too much Kenny's energy. And then I was hoping that
destroyed my fantasy team.
Yeah, and hopefully Souls is doing all right. Hopefully he made his way back from the island, because I'm sure he heavily celebrated their victory. But
he might still be there.
Yeah, he might still be on the island. The other thing is the Justins. I snuck 2 into 1 here. Barsha's speed as of lately, I don't ever really put him as a speed guy. His whole career, even when he is winning, he's a good starter and a good racer. But he's had some serious times where he's the fastest guy in the racetrack lately, which is awesome. And then also Justin Hill. I didn't have much expectations for him, other than if he was making main events and showing up at every round, I thought would be honestly a reasonably good season for him. And he's clawing himself further and further to the front of the field. It'll be really cool to see how he does here at his hometown race. And then the final one, we sat there during the preseason show and talked about how we thought that Team KTM really didn't have much relevance. And I remember talking about Christian Craig saying he was the fastest guy on days at Baker's factory. And we laughed and said, but who's there? Because we had such low expectations for KTM. And now Cooper Webb has the red plate. AP just dang near won the race. But AP's been good every single round. And he's one of the best guys in the whoops too each week. So those are my 3 guys that are exceeding expectations, just like those Race Tech Gold Valves.
All right, so this is what we're gonna do.
Real quick,
for those who are watching, and we're gonna run this until next week when we do our
Brad,
live
you're
show.
totally ignoring Denny.
No, I just wanted to say something about the Hill brothers. Top 10, both of them, 2 brothers, top 10 in Supercross. The first time since the Pomeroy brothers. I believe the Pomeroy brothers. Goddamn, I don't know. Now I'm
great point so far.
Fact that Hill brothers top 10, first time 2 brothers finished top 10 in Supercross in 1972. That's pretty fucking cool.
Wow.
That's all
I had.
Yeah.
It's amazing that happened in the first year and then didn't happen for 50 fucking years.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's just, I didn't mean to interrupt. That was just a cool fact. And I think we're all Hill brother fans here. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, obviously the Lawrence brothers will be challenging that here very soon with their records as well. But the fact that Justin and Josh, top 10 last week, 10th and a 7th, first time 2 brothers done it in 50 years is pretty badass.
As if the Stewart brothers never did when Malcolm moved up on a 450. Remember when Malcolm came up and raced a 450 for TLD?
Oh, that was outdoors only though. He didn't do it.
No, it was super. It was It was Daytona. I know it was Daytona because Andrew Short took him out.
Oh, well, maybe that's why he didn't get to the top 10.
Yeah.
The silent Colorado assassin.
The smiling assassin. All right. So this is how we're going to give this thing away. This is a free gold valve kit from our friends over at Race Tech. And how we're going to give it away is over the next week until we do our next show. And our next preview show or pregame show is going to be next week, Thursday, not the following week, Thursday, leading into Arizona. We're actually going to do it a week in advance due to some scheduling conflicts for both myself and Checkers. So we're going to give this 1 week. So in the next week, whether you're watching this in archive or you're watching this live right now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to plead your case. You have to tag all three of us in your tweet, letting us know why you feel like you need a set of brand new gold valve kit for your suspension to lead you into a brand new season where you're going for that championship or just want to feel more comfortable on your motorcycle. So what you're going to want to do is tweet all three of us, tag all three of us in the tweet. Let us know why you need a gold valve kit for your bike. And we, under some careful consideration, we'll figure out who it is that wins that. And it will be announced in 1 week's time on this show.
Sounds good.
I like it.
I like it.
Okay. So that now we move on to a segment that used to be brought to you by airwheeliesonly.com, but that URL has actually changed recently to breaktaponly.com, which is, I'm sure, sort of an homage to the science of Supercross this last weekend, where we were given some physics instruction on the gyroscope that is our wheels on dirt bikes. Anyone who's ever grabbed the front or back brake of your motorcycle while you're midair knows all about that. And honestly, I thought that was like the coolest thing you could possibly do back in the day on 85s or whatever. You just like kind of like jump nose high and then just bring the back brake down or hit the back brake and bring it down.
How cool was
Checkers, you don't know anything about that, right?
No, see, I go to the moon, and that's just like my scores are going here in this versus challenge questions. But Denny was the master of the brake tap and arena cross over the catapults on the 125, just trying to stretch it out over him out of all the rutted corners, get the front end sky high. But then he would tap the brake and bring it down, where the real pros just keep it straight up to the moon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So this is the versus questions. These are where there are no winners, really, when it comes into this, just because of the arguing and the yelling and the swearing that happens. But we do keep score right now. Checkers from last week. Checkers was up. They were tied going into last week. So now Checkers is up 13-12. He won 4-3 in the last weekend, which with only 7 questions, it was that one extra win is basically an absolute shit kicking. Denny was hanging his head in shame. It's when he wasn't actually very active on our group chat, as he was sobbing uncontrollably for the majority of the week, which is understandable whenever you get your ass handed to you like that in a game like this, where it takes a lot of pride, but we'll try and right some wrongs and move in the right direction. And that's why when he loses, and it happens so often, we actually let him sort of lead things off. And that's who's going to go to first here on our first versus question. We got 2 guys kind of making their debut into the series. So who finishes better this weekend? Carson Mumford, who happens to be getting his first ride on Team Pro Circuit in the 250 class, or we have Cole Seeley, a guy who's won a 450 main event in the past, debuting for the MCR Honda team. So Denny, I'll let you take the floor.
That's a great question. I didn't realize that Cole was going to be back this weekend. When I had set the Moto Extreme 360 Seattle salary list live, I got a few texts saying, hey, Cole's going to race this weekend. And so I added him, and I kind of had to predict where I felt Cole would be, obviously in the results, to give him a salary base. And I got to be honest, I'm not a fan of Cole Seeley, but I'm not a fan of riders coming off the couch and showing up at Supercross after being away for a few years. Cole raced World Supercross last year on a 250, and it was a shit show. He was on the ground more times, and we played a fantasy game for World Supercross, and I took him in 2 out of the 3 rounds. Where the hell? One of the 2 rounds, however many rounds that series was. And Cole did not live up to his speed. He made a lot of mistakes. And that's just nothing against that, man. That goes back to Ryan Dungey when he came off the couch for the outdoors, and people were saying he was going to podium win motos. And dude, it's so hard to come off of being away from the sport that long and to lay down results. And Carson has been racing very consistently. His first time, as he said, as Checkers would say, with Blows on the factory pro circuit Cowie. I'm going to go with Blows or Mumford. I'm sorry. Over, I think I got Celia probably about 14th, 15th. I don't see him beat either the Hill brothers or that normal group in that. He's got a lot to prove. And I see Mumford. He's kind of been a top 10 guy off and on. I can see Mumford run around 10th or 11th. I think the debut of Mumford and Sons takes down Cole Seeley, which I see he's going to be number 160, which was my dad's national number back in the day. So very cool to see that. But I'm a Mumford guy for this weekend.
Well, I could have easily went 50-50 on this one, but dang well I'm not going to agree with you. So Mumford might have the advantage of a slightly easier 250 class and the advantage of a factory bike, but what he doesn't have is the riding time that Seeley's been having. And I would argue Seeley's program's just as good. I think that the World Supercross thing last year was the butt kicking and wake up call that's going to make him better, because I think he realized even in the 250 class of World Supercross, just kind of mailing it in wasn't going to get it done. The dude has one of the most talented and skilled riders of all time. Seattle's going to be a skill and talent track. He's been under the tutelage of Tony Alessi, who hasn't been at the races the last, what seems like forever ago, since we had our last West Coast race. So he's been out there just grinding and putting motos in and stuff on a really solid program and a really solid motorcycle. So in the 450 class, also, we don't have Ferrandis, we don't have Cooper, we don't have Nichols. There's no reason that Cole Seeley can't go out there and run around the 12th place spot with Dean Wilson. And Mumford's bike in the field might be normally he could go get that done, but the dude hasn't been riding. He's been hurt. And there's a lot of pressure on him. It's going to be really hard for Mumford not to go out there and try too hard. And he can't be 100% at this point. And it's going to be hard for him to finish the race, unfortunately. I hope he does. And I hope he can steadily build, kind of how Blows did on the East Coast side with the deal where he came in late on the motorcycle. It didn't blow it all in the first race, but Mumford's young and on his first factory opportunity. It's going to be really tough for him not to just go all out. So give me Cole Seeley and a point for this week, because I'm going to be right.
What is the injury that Mumford's coming off? Was that a broken arm? I think it was.
They kind of hid the second injury that he had. It was a gnarly broken arm wrist before the season when his bike decided it didn't want to run anymore. Yeah, and he went cartwheeling. But then they quietly sat him out of Oakland and didn't say that he re-injured himself. But from everything that I've heard reported, he re-injured himself. I just don't know what that injury was.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to that. You're not going to get a straight answer what it was, but it was something. Let's just put it that way. All right, so chalk that one up for Checkers. He's already claiming it, although the race will still determine whether or not he actually gets that win. RJ Hampshire, Cameron McAdoo continue to fight for sort of the best of the rest, I suppose, for the non-Lawrence finishers in this particular series. Checkers, I'll let you pick between these two second place combatants.
Well, I mean, you have RJ Hampshire, who has gotten second at all but the race that he cartwheeled himself at the Triple Crown. So he's been beating McAdoo. But the fact is McAdoo was hurting, and McAdoo doesn't crash as much as RJ Hampshire typically, which is, he's growing out of that a little bit, where Hampshire's never changed. So I have to go with the consistency of McAdoo. I also think him being back to 100% and a gnarly track, I think he's the more solid choice. And I would take Cameron McAdoo on Team Iowa for the win here. Not the win, but the win over Hampshire.
Right. Yeah, that's I was kind of interested to see where you're going to go with that, because honestly, they're kind of a toss-up. They're 81 and 80 points. Hampshire has the benefit of 1 point advantage and 3 seconds to Cameron's 3/3. They both have the grenade during the Triple Crown or at Arlington. It was Triple Crown of 6th and 11th, or Anaheim, I believe. Yeah, Anaheim. but yeah, God, I know I've never seen anyone get a podium and be as disappointed as Cameron's been this year. You know, it seems like we know who he is. We know what he's been bringing. The heartbreak that he's been chased down by RJ now repeatedly in 3 of the 4 rounds, and is unable to hold that second spot while Jet just kind of wheelies away. And you took Cam, so I guess I got to go RJ because he's literally done it 3 out of the 4 rounds. So why wouldn't I think he does it again? I'm excited for RJ to try and get this season wrapped up, put him on a 450 next year, and move out of this Tiddler class, because I think Hampshire has a lot to offer, and as well as Cameron, because the guy has more heart than we've ever seen. That Popeye arm he had after wadding himself up and still coming back and put in a great performance. 2 of the greatest, hardest workers that push the front end like a broom. But these 2 are probably 2 of the greatest racers we've seen as far as heart, emotion, giving it all on the track. But yeah, if you're going Cam, I'm going RJ. So we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Like, honestly, if we get inclement weather, I like RJ over Cameron every day of the week. Honestly, I think that like that's just him growing up in Florida and just being able to flat flow with some things. But all that being said, nobody asked me. Moving on to our next one. Only 3 points separate Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac. Tomac needs himself a get right weekend, or at least to get back into this thing. He can't give up too many more points before the end of this series. But the question is to you, Debo, who gathers most points in Seattle? Cooper Webb or Tomac?
Well, I've been, I'm ride or die with Eli. I busted his balls enough over the years with the Elito Mac and saying that he was, and knowing that he had more to offer than he had, and he proved it when he got on Star last year and went out and had probably one of the best seasons of anyone in ever. Outdoor title, Supercross title, the nation's title, and doing it with a smile on his face, seeing this whole new personality we see from Eli. And then on the other hand, Webb has been someone anytime we've ever doubted him, I think Checkers and we all have in our text thread. When he was at Yamaha, I thought he was done. He goes to KTM, goes and wins 2 Supercross titles. Last year was just a debauchery of trying to do things on his own, became the highest paid local off-road racer in the history of the sport, and then comes back and is kicking ass again. So it's hard to ever count out Cooper Webb, because when you do, the guy returns, because he's got such a work ethic and a knowledge of racecraft, as we say time and time again. But I'm going Eli Tomac, man. He's going to come out this weekend. Which if he wins and Cooper is second, that's a 3-point difference, and they'll be tied in points, and they will head to the next round, and with both red plates. So I'm Eli Tomac, Seattle band. Let's go ET.
Yeah, you're not right on that one, because here's the thing. Ever since his crash at Anaheim 2, Eli has been a little bit tentative and a little bit off. When the track was gnarly in Indianapolis, Eli Tomac wasn't there. Elito Mac was there and was rolling around in 8th. He's fighting this new motorcycle thing, which is so super weird to me that it's late in the season instead of early in the season. But it does make sense when the tracks get more chewed up that they're fighting a little bit with the motorcycle, because it's just evident he's always been the most solid guy in the whoops. Maybe not the absolute fastest, but the most solid. And he was getting worked by Cooper Webb in the whoops. Like that shouldn't be happening. And then if you look at Cooper Webb on the podium, he beat his championship rival, Eli Tomac, and he got second place, and he looked absolutely pissed off, burning fire. Cooper Webb is locked into championship mode. He is focused, and when he is like that, he is dangerous. He absolutely will not let Eli Tomac beat him. He's going to be smooth, smart, not make mistakes, and Eli's not going to shut his brain off like he needs to in Seattle to be dominating like he has there before. They both will probably be chasing the number 23 around the track, but give me Cooper Webb over Eli Tomac to score more points and stretch his points lead on Tomac in Seattle.
Yeah, the difference between Tomac and Webb is Tomac has always had the ability of just straight raw speed, where he can drop a hammer and lay down a lap time outdoors or indoors, 2 to 3 seconds faster. That's what we know Eli of. So if Eli is tentative, like you said, and that is a distinguished or a very solid question, wondering if his crash did something to him, if his discomfort of laying that type of lap time down and being that uncomfortable on the bike when you got to go that fast, where Webb just is kind of the machine of bomb, 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 bomb. And where Tomac, you need those flashes of brilliance. So Great point, Checkers. Yeah, I would just elaborate on what you were saying.
I can't reiterate this enough. I do not like when the two of you agree on anything. So if we can keep that to a bare minimum, that would be for the best.
I still got tone.
This show is about animosity and proving Denny wrong. Staying with Checkers to be able to volley this one off the hop. This honestly, like when we set up these versus questions, sometimes they're easier than others, but this one might be as cut right down the middle as you could possibly have it. Christian Craig, who says he is not a rookie, which I didn't think he was either. And then same thing with Adam Cianciarulo, who's I believe has raced even less 450 races than Christian Craig due to a lot of injuries and all that fun stuff. Although he does have a Monster Cup win. Who finishes better in Seattle, Adam Cianciarulo or Christian Craig? Checks. You get the first shot at this one.
Well, as much as you hate it when we agree, you're probably going to hate it even more. Probably about as much as I hated this question, and I'm the one that wrote it. I seriously, when I wrote it, I didn't know who I was going to pick as an answer. I'm sitting here reading it. I don't know who was going to pick as an answer. But the one deciding factor that I've come up with is Adam Cianciarulo has had knee issues, he's had shoulder issues, and he has arm pump issues. And the arm pump issues on a ruddy track are a huge concern for me. I don't see him either. He's either going to ride cautious or he's going to get arm pump. And that's going to allow Craig, who's been building and getting better throughout the year. He's coming off a season best finish of sixth place, I believe. He's been 6-7, building towards those top fives. He might finally get there eventually. So it's going to be more of an outdoor style track in Seattle. So give me Christian Craig. And Denny, I know you hate when we agree, so good luck going the other direction.
Well, yeah, I usually call you a pussy when you choose to like. I could easily say right now I'll go with Craig and agree with you, but and I'm a Craig fan. Obviously, I completely overestimated my expectations of Christian. He's been struggling on the Husky, been struggling in 4D class. He's been getting better and better each week. But your point of using Adam Cianciarulo saying that he's going to get tight on a rutted track, do we just not see 2 weeks ago on what you called a asterisk mutter in Indianapolis? We saw Adam Cianciarulo ride his best ride of the year. So I don't think Adam is going to struggle in the ruts that we might see in Seattle. I hate to doubt my Christian Craig guy, because I've been trying to ride or die with that guy all year long. He's been riding better and better, and he's learning. No, he's been in every race. He hasn't been hurt. Neither one of them. Adam missed one round, and Christian has been there every race, and that says a lot as you kind of figure out the bike. I think that provides a better base that they will both have for 2024. But I'm going to go Adam Cianciarulo for Seattle, because I think the rutted track, we saw that he gets way better starts. We can watch 18 hours of race day live in Supercross and never even see Christian Craig. I don't even know what gear he wears. I don't even know he could be on a pink bike on a flashing fucking pink lights with Phil Nicoletti, and we wouldn't know because he's never been talked about. There's not been an interview of him. He's literally the most invisible factory rider coming off a fucking crushing Supercross title season that we've ever seen. I think Paige gets more hits for talking to Hayden Deegan than Christian gets on fucking social media or race day coverage. So
we're not even going there.
I'm going Adam Cianciarulo for tops over Craig, and I will say that reluctantly, but anytime I can just argue with Checkers a little bit, and I think his argument is weak because Cianciarulo's best ride was in a rutted race 2 weeks ago, and we're going back to the ruts, assumingly in Seattle.
You look at your one race, and I'll look at the rest of them.
Ooh, that's a Wygant line. All right, guys, a couple more versus questions for you before we get into some fantasy talk. Is one guy who happens to be on a factory back motorcycle with all the bells and whistles, and another guy who is a grizzled veteran of the series who actually used to ride for that Star Racing Yamaha team. You have Levi Kitchen, who is on the rise. He's been getting better and better, although this is technically in a lot of ways his sort of rookie season in Supercross. Or you have a grizzled veteran in Mitchell Oldenburg. Debo, we'll let you take this thing off the hop.
Well, that's a great stat. I don't remember Mitchell racing for Star. That'd be a while back. And
yes,
but he's been riding really, really well. And I know that he's a fan of Checkers, or Checkers is a fan of his. He takes him anytime he can in our draft games, and he does. He also does it very quietly. He had a great year last year riding 250 and 450 for the team. I'm a fan of his. but I think the kitchen is the future of the sport. He's kind of, I think he's passing what Oldenburg is capable of with his team. And I would throw back in Checker's face, as he always throws back at me, is that he's on a better team. Star is obviously a great, probably the best Hootie ride you could have, and Levi Kitchen is the future of the sport. I think he's proven it time and time again. He's coming up. He's a little bit older, but and I believe he's from the area. Yeah, he's from up in that. He lives like 10 minutes from Washington. So this is a home race for Levi, and I'm going Chef for this weekend. I think he'll take down Oldenburg. Although I see them like third and fourth, third and fifth. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good battle between these two guys. These are two great riders, just different parts in their career at this point.
Yes, very, very much different. What do you think there, Chex?
Well, I mean, I could make a lot of arguments for Levi Kitchen here being a great outdoor guy, hometown race, the Star team being really good. Although I don't discount the Moto Concepts Honda team. They're a really good program and good bike that's on par, I think, with any other of the other factory teams. Just the Star team is definitely better. I won't argue that Kitchen is the future, but I'm certainly not going to agree with you. So I'm going to go to the fact that Mitchell Oldenburg he's done what I've wanted Jordan Smith to do forever, what I've wanted RJ Hampshire to do forever. Take a little bit off the top and become that solid 250 guy. Oldenburg was one of those guys. He was a Pierce Brown. Well, he's still pretty dang good. But I guess maybe not, because he's not on one of the factory programs. He's on a semi-factory program. But here's the deal. The results for Kitchen, he does have a win, but it was at a Triple Crown. He didn't win a race. Or he didn't win one of the races. But his results are 7-21, 1-4. Very, very inconsistent. I'm going to have to bank on the fact that he's going to mess up, because I sure as heck am not going to agree with Denny. I'm going to go Oldenburg, and I'm going to go with him being super solid, being there at the end, probably in the top 5, and hoping that Kitchen has another one of his off nights. Like so many of the 250 riders always do. So that's where we're going to go. Oldenburg smokes Kitchen because Kitchen lays on the ground.
Because the kitchen's on fire.
You guys, you're talking about a little bit off the top. That reminds me of Denny's terrible haircut. No, you look good, Denny. But all right, last versus question. Somehow we have 3 guys in this, so maybe I get to pick one. Checkers, we'll go to you first. Robertson, Voland, or Brown. All 3 of these guys have harnessed the power of gravity over the years, but all 3 of them seem to be sort of starting to figure this out.
Oh man, well, I don't know about sort of starting to figure it out when you're talking about Pierce Brown, but I have been hearing that he's riding really well during this break. But he always goes fast, and probably is always fast at the test track. The fact of the matter is he's having troubles putting it together at the racetrack. He's went DNQ 5.85. A little bit of that, I'm sure. It was a tailbone injury, I believe, if I recall, back at Anaheim 1, where he crashed and cartwheeled, and so he was riding a little bit hurt for the other races. So maybe that's why he's been so slow, because he should be way ahead of these guys. He was 3rd in points in the 250 East Series last year. Voland 5 DNQ 5.7 so far, and then Robertson 9.63 DNS. For all I've seen, he is healthy and good to go. Remember, he did win a race at the Triple Crown. And was really good, and definitely I would say he was better than these guys at the first races. This is a tough one for me, because really any of them you can make an argument for, but I have to go with Robertson. Just I think he got some confidence going and is rolling with that. Very confident in that answer, huh? So you should be able to defeat me in the argument on this one, Denny, because I'm still in my head going, you know what?
That was like,
I'm going to open the door for you to go Styles, because I'm going to change it to Pierce Brown. I'm going to say that it was only because of the tailbone, and he's going to come out and just swinging. I'm taking Pierce Brown from you. See, I just threw a curveball.
That looked like me at the dentist's office right there with that choice. Looked like you're trying to pull teeth to get an answer out of you right there.
For choices, I want Voland to win though, so I can pick all 3 of them.
Well, I'll say the same thing about Pierce Brown I've said about Jack Chambers and Fantasy Supercross. I'd rather marry a monster girl than fucking take Pierce Brown for anything.
He's your Jordan Smith, huh?
that guy, man, I've never seen one guy fucking just piss away stupid good results and crash. Just And I'm trying to be positive, and we're making a more positive show this weekend. But when it comes to Pierce Brown, it's a whole new level to that. And the fact that he got a 2-year contract kind of blows my mind.
I'm positive about something with Pierce Brown. He'll probably hit the ground.
Yeah, it's positive that it's a tough sport, man. And I'm not, he's a great rider, got a great opportunity, but we've been waiting for him to try and kind of pull his head off his ass and get something done solid consistently, and we haven't seen it. And I know that Will Hahn doesn't listen to our show, but he'll complain and go, he's only 19, but nonetheless, I'm a big fan of Silas Robertson. We moved over from Husky to the Star team. I think when we did our first little draft game, that I had higher expectations from him, and he's done good. He's got a 9th, a 6th, and a 3rd, and then a little banged up. Didn't start that last 4th round in Oakland, but I'm a big fan of his. I think that he's on the right team. He's on the right direction. I'm not a fan of the Huskies 250 team and bikes. I think that they handle like shit in the whoops. We can't see those guys get through the track. Max Bowen obviously didn't qualify. I was a little hard on him. He's getting better and better. I'll be shocked to see if he's going to stay with KTM next year or something different. But when it comes to Seattle, I'm going Styles Robertson. I don't even know if I say his first name correctly, but
Styles.
It's Styles.
Styles.
I like calling him Styles.
It has never been Styles.
Styles sounds cooler, man. I think maybe you should change that.
It's not like a stylus that you use on like an iPad
Right?
like 10 years ago. It's Styles.
Styles. I think that's got way more flair. So
If he was a male model, he would be Styles, but he's not.
Styles. I think he was in a Ben Stiller movie one time.
Yeah, that is Zoolander 3. No, that one went straight to video.
Yeah, Blue Steel.
Yeah, Blue Tigre.
I'll be
all right.
So that means you're stuck with Volan then.
I will go with Volan. Just like I say every year or every week for the Moto Extreme, or MXD 360. I'm right. Volan's going to get 3rd place this weekend. You guys just wait and see.
Yeah,
he's going to be on the podium.
That sounds about right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he won't know what to say because it hasn't happened for him yet. So it'll be the first time we get to see a podium interview from him, and it'll just blow your wigs back. It'll be a really exciting thing, and we'll get to talk about it when we come back here. All right, last call, boys. Let's predictions from these absolutely slobbering idiots is something that we cherish greatly. Checkers, my question to you is Sexton actually still in this title at all? 17 points back is quite the tall task with only 8 rounds to go.
Well, I mean, he was my title pick coming into this, and as Clinton Fowler verified for me, and that I thought it's happened one time in 20 years, and Stu did it. So technically Tomac kind of came back and got to the points lead after round 15. But typically the guy leading after round number 10 goes on to win your title, except for Stu. But here's the deal. I picked Sexton at the beginning of the year. I've been driving it home that he's not eliminated. He's still the fastest guy. So I'm going to drive this ship wide open until it completely hits the iceberg and sinks all the way under the ocean. But right now we're still alive, baby. We have a mathematical chance. And honestly, I still believe that he can get it done, but it is getting harder and harder. I thought it was very realistic that it could get done after last weekend. It's going to be tough this one, but it's a bold prediction, and I'm going to stay right on that ship and keep on going.
Yeah, just going down to the Titanic. I didn't know that you were drinking this heavily prior to the show. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone live. I think he's 17 points is a lot. Like his destiny's not in his own hands at this point. He needs some help from the other two. Not to say that's completely outside the realm of possibilities, but Debo, you can weigh in as well, but I think it's this one's cooked. We got a 2-horse race now.
Oh yeah, I mean I can appreciate Checkers. He said Sexton was his title favorite at the beginning of the season. He's going to ride it out, and even he said that that it wasn't done. And had he not jumped on that red cross flag, we'd be looking at a 10-point difference instead of 17 points, and a whole entirely different game. But ride or die, Tomac and Webb. If you were trying to make up 17 points in one rider, I can understand it because there's always that chance of mistake, like we saw from AP and we've seen even from Chase. But yeah, making up 17 points, 13 or 14 and then 17 on Tomac and Webb. Not with those two machines. Those two are champions. They know how to win titles. They're not going to fucking piss away this thing.
It was very likely though last weekend that Sexton was not that far from being able to catch and pass AP. He wasn't going to get it done, but it wouldn't have taken that much circumstance to put AP also between them. So when you say it's against two riders, that can work in his favor because they can be flip-flopping, stealing points from each other. Plus you have the Barsha and the Roxon or the Aaron Plessinger or the Jason Anderson that can get in between them. And a first to fifth is a lot of points. You can make up a lot in one night. And keep in mind, we're going into Seattle, could be a complete mutter. Anything can happen there. One of those guys can have a DNF and all of a sudden the points lead. He's ahead of them in points when he leaves there. And then we have outdoor venues with Atlanta too. So you cannot say that he's completely out of this thing. It's not likely, but he's going to get it done.
Move on. I'm tired of your rhetoric.
All right, Debo, 3 riders, 3 results. Give me your best finish in a race for the following riders, and and who's going to get what? Christian Craig, AC, or Justin Hill, or otherwise known as Jew Hill.
Jew Hill. That's how we got him on all my fantasy leagues, because we can't put J Hill because there's 2 of them. So he's Jew and the other one's Joe. And Justin's doing great. I cannot be happier for him. AC, it's just nice to see him back, right, putting in some solid results. Craig is the one I believe in. It's the one I've started with the prior season. I'm still waiting for a top 5. I had 8 of them. I'm still 0 for 8. I was 5 for top 8s now, and I think he's got 3 of those down, or maybe 4 now. I'm still on the Craig train. I think he's going to have the best finish. I really think it's capable for either Craig or AC to get a top 5. I don't see Justin quite getting a top 5 yet. His 7th last weekend was fantastic and a great ride, and he's becoming more and more comfortable on that Husky, or that KTM. I'm sorry, but I'm still Christian Craig on the Husky. I think he's going to get. I think he has a 4th or a 5th. If he get a start, man, if Craig could get one of AC's starts, I think he would do better than AC has with his starts, if that makes sense.
Like that start he got at Daytona when he got dropped by Hampshire, huh?
Yeah, Daytona's just Daytona. I won Daytona. It doesn't take nothing.
That really is saying something. Denny does have a Daytona trophy. I think you need to hold that high above your head when we do ever do this show. Checkers, who is going to be the king of Privateer Island? Who's going to be like the King Julian of Privateer Island? We have some really good standout rides that we've had, and some guys who have kind of come out of the woodwork that you wouldn't normally expect to be as dominant or as consistent as they have been. Moran's has been really good. Bloss has been really good. But who's going to be the best finisher or the top privateer when the dust settles at the final round in Salt Lake City?
Well, Benny Bloss has a lead of 9 points back to Moran's, and then everybody else kind of follows up.
Yeah,
just a few points kind of behind him for the most part. And Bloss definitely will have the best finish of any of the privateers, I would say. But the fact of the matter is, it's just showing up to the races and finishing the races is really tough for him. So when he does get points, he gets them in a big haul, but then he doesn't even get points at other times. I think
very high lows.
and Moran's has really kind of went from a bubble main event guy to a solid main event guy most weekends. And once he's in the mains, man, he rips. He puts so much effort into it to finish the races. It's really, really impressive. I've been super impressed with Grant Harlan. I like the dude a lot. I didn't expect these results from him really at all. And I still haven't even convinced myself that he's like a really good 450 Supercross rider yet. Like I don't know why, just I've never looked at him that way. And I haven't made that transition yet.
Agreed.
But I'm not going to go with any of those guys. I can't go with Clayson because he can't quit crashing this year, but I'm going to go with Justin Starling, who I think is finally back healthy again. And he's the most talented rider of this whole group. If he put in a little bit more work ethic, I think he could be a really, really good rider. But the fact of the matter is he's extremely solid, extremely smooth. And now that he's back completely healthy, I think he's going to go on a run towards the front of all these guys and will be the king of Privateer Island when we're done.
Yeah, you could knock down some top 15, maybe 14th or 12th on a really, really good night. Debo, Dean Wilson, not yet gotten a top 10. I was very tempted to pick him in our Survivor game this weekend. I didn't pick Justin Hill either, but I'm glad that I didn't pick either one of those guys because Dean Wilson was outside. He was well outside the top 10. 21st was his last finish. But what's going to be his best finish before the end of the season? He's currently sitting 11th in points.
Well, to go back to the last question, because I always like saying this whenever I hear his name, but Cartwright, table for four.
Cartwright?
Cartwright. That's a Seinfeld episode that every time I hear his name, and great writer. Anyways, Dean Wilson, yeah. Man, I take him every other week. Like he is my go-to on MotoExtreme360.com. I take him every other week because he was literally ninth in points last week before his crash, which caused the whole Red Cross flag. He was going backwards on the track. Sexton jumped on the Red Cross, lost 7 points. So Wilson was, even though he finished 21st, he's managed to put himself in the storyline again. And yet again, he was in 10th. He was 10th. He was right there for 10-point bonus on the fantasy league, and to put himself up there. It seems it's crazy because the season started with the 14th, followed up with the 14th, and as riders have slowly been leaving the series, riders who were beating him, now the riders who were behind him, the Hill brothers, are now beating him. So there's really no rhyme or reason to Dean, but he gave a very honest and explanation on pulpit, recently. And we talked about his anxiety. I mean, he had a horrific injury, which I don't even want to discuss, since what he went through and whatnot. And he is, I think we're all Dean Wilson fans. He brings a lot to the sport. I don't think I've ever seen anyone develop more of a Scottish accent as he lived here over the years.
Than Calgary. Fuck's sake.
I when I was an agent, I tried to work for him and stuff. I know his mom and his dad and him, and big fan of Dean. But I think he's just kind of riding out this contract right now and not pushing things over the limit, because when you're lining up, as he said on the gate, and has some type of fear factor that he's carrying each and every race, I think you can kind of see it in his results. And so to go back at his top result, I think he's capable of. I think he's capable of like a 7th or 8th, right there with where Justin finished last weekend. Justin got a 7th. Justin Hill. He's capable of that, but I don't know if he can. He can get over the hump of the mental wall that he's dealing with right now. Which dirt bikes are fucking gnarly, man. They'll hurt you. They'll put you on the ground. They're a cruel mistress, as we've talked about a million times. I hope Dean can get over that, because he's going to go race World Supercross this next season, and then he might be done with the sport. But he's already brought a lot to it, and I know he's got what 2 11ths, 3 12ths. I think the best we can see Dean is maybe a 9th, and I'm hoping he gets a 9th. And I hope he breaks that top 10 barrier, because he's capable of it, and he deserves to at least get that before he wraps up his Supercross career.
Completely agree. And I would love to see it, because I'd like to pick him in Supercross Survivor so that I can continue to survive. I honestly, I lose more sleep over that game than I do actual fantasy. Yeah. And we're going to get to that a little bit later down the show. But now it is time to debate with Debo, a gentleman who often puts his foot in his mouth and argues points, and then goes back on himself, and sometimes proves himself wrong, which is always something that I am absolutely blown away by. We consistently debate with Debo, and it's a good thing that you're sitting down right now, Denny, because you are Mitch Payton, which is fitting. You're hiring 5 guys for your 250 team next year with an unlimited budget. Who are you hiring for a 2-year contract in the 250 class?
That's a great question. I think we would all like to have that. I think anytime we see the Powerball go over $1 billion, we all go, what would we do with that if we won that? And I would
race Supercross for 100 years.
Right. Well, I have a plan for that. That's another show altogether. But a big fan of Mitch Payton. He was a big supporter of me. He did a lot for me over the years through Supercross, Arena Cross. Always with my dad and him, we're good friends, and put me on some great, fantastic dirt bikes. But for the 5 riders, I would go with, obviously, the Lawrence brothers. I'm going to assume that they're going to be moving out, as they should. So that leaves me with 2 for sure off the top of my head. I'm going to go with Nate Thrasher and Hayden Deegan. Thrasher is finding his way in the sport. Deegan is the future of the sport. I'll say that again. I would like for Mitch to steal Chance Hymas. I think Chance Hymas has unlimited little ability and skill set. I think that we're just seeing, and I'm so disappointed that Lars pulled him off the track, and that's just out of the East region. So we're going to jump over the West real quick, and I'm going to go with I would love to go with Levi Kitchen. I think that he is somebody who has a lot to offer as well. And then I would like to see Enzo Lopes put himself on a factory bike and see what he's capable of. When JGR brought him over the first time from Brazil, I think he was a little bit over his head, and we've seen Enzo grow and grow and grow. So I think we have 3 substantial riders with great results and 2 that are growing in Enzo and Chance Hymas. So that would be my 5-man team. Thrasher.
One of the things that didn't get pointed out though, Denny, is that it's SX and motocross, and Enzo Lopes is electing not even to ride outdoors. So you sure you want to go that direction?
I would rather be in Brazil than do outdoors too.
Hey, I would, yeah. I'm assuming if I'm Mitch and I hired him that I get to hang out down in Brazil for a couple of weeks. I spent 3 weeks in Brazil shooting Crusty Demons a couple of weeks, and let me tell you, it was worth hiring Enzo Lopes.
Well, let me just put it this way. You went with all those kids, and when they're all sitting on the sidelines, just like this year, Mitch can pick up his phone and he can call up that old man Bloss again to get him another top 5. And then maybe he should also ring up Mitchell Oldenburg as well with his unlimited budget, or Max Anstey, because the solid old guys will still be there to get it done when those kids are all crashing out. At least you didn't say Jordan Smith.
Yeah, no, Max Anstey is a good choice too. Being from England, but yeah, 3 weeks in Brazil will be better than the UK.
Speaking of hiring teams, I guess we can probably move on to that Moto Extreme time.
Yeah, it's time to talk about fantasy, and we can't talk about MotoXDream360.com, MXD360.com without talking about the results of this last week when yours truly, Brad Gebhart, Mr. BigMX Radio himself, beat down Mr. Checkers. I might have only beaten one person in my league, but I beat somebody who's been kicking my ass all year long. Have a nice slice of humble pie, Chris Riesenberg. You were defeated by the lowly Brad Gebhart from BigMX Radio in a game that I'm not even sure know how to play. Thank you very much. Hold your applause. I can see your tears right now. If you had a 4K camera right now, I know you'd just be overcome with emotion and sadness, and rightfully so, because you got your ass kicked by me in a game that Denny designed and neither of us know how to play.
My fiance kicked both of our asses, and
I know that
too, so screw you. She held it down for the house and the family, and we pretty much won. So you still didn't beat me. And if you look at the points overall, I'm beating both of you guys. So screw you. And if you set it up so that I can share my screen, I can show everyone the results.
Here. Fuck.
Or I can show our teams when we move on to them. But I'm going to go ahead and get to the
you're
overall results, which we have the league leader. I believe my brother is actually in chat now, and he still holds the red plate trying to get that Stormike Honda CRF 110.
Yeah, he beat me this weekend too in our head-to-head.
He also knocked you out of head-to-head. But it's pretty much the only thing he can beat me at now too. Just like Denny's always wrong, so is he. But overall, let's see, in the league, I'm sitting 14th in the BigMX Radio League and 68th overall. I see Denny down here and behind me because he's not as good, and
terrible.
14th in the sorry about that. 17th in the BigMX League, 97th overall, and then I go all the way to the bottom and still not in last place again. Brad, you held it down for another week. In 24th out of 25 and 157th overall is BigMX Radio's Brad Gebhart. So that's where we're sitting in standings, but we're going to go ahead and pick some teams, I think, here, Brad, for this week and highlight some riders and that side of things. And I can now pull up the list on the screen. So, Denny, if you want to start with the 250 class, go.
Well,
ahead.
First of all, I'd just like to talk about my team last week, which, I had Jordan Smith. I had Aaron Plessinger. If I would just stick with my Thursday team that we picked together, I would crush it. I had Hunter Lawrence. And then I see Lance Koba show up at that round, and so I'm like, okay, I could take him for nearly free $7 and open up my entire gift box of riders. And so I changed everything around. I had Craig and AC who were available to be hot and got 10-point bonuses from both of them. And then I took Noren, who got a 19th. And then God, man, it was just we have a new head-to-head game that we're playing March Madness with MXD, and I was playing against our friend Matt Byton, X Games legend, dirty backflipper, and I was beating him by 1 point, and then Plesser went down, and all my dreams went to hell. So I apologize, Aaron, for taking you on the team. I did not mean to put the MXD curse upon you. And Jordan Smith, we know where that goes. So we are on a new team that we got the West. Our game is always, you can't take the same riders back-to-back weekends. By opening it up to the West round, we are all available to take anyone and everyone from the West. If you can afford them, this is your time to go for it. Obviously, Jet is very expensive. Hampshire and McAdoo are right there with it. I think Mitchell Olderberg is a great deal. I think Levi Kitchen's a great deal. Matt Moss is still very affordable. He only has one race under his belt.
He is not in the U.S.
He is not.
No, he is out of the country right now.
He's not racing this weekend. Clearly
Unless
not.
he gets on a flight right now.
Well,
he's been riding Yamaha down in Australia. So
Jesus, man, so many things changed. I had not heard this, and so I admit my ignorance on that one. Bar-X have had some changes. So yeah, no Matt Moss. Dylan Walsh has had very consistent results. Cole Thompson has a very hot wife, so I would take him just for that. And then Carson is looking for a solid result, which I think he's capable of possibly running top 10. This entire West round is kind of new. Just looking back, I will send you guys out a cheat sheet that shows all the results. It's something I think you guys got to see, because I think once you see some of these results, I think Anthony Rodriguez is a great deal. Hunter Yoder, Mitchell Harrison is capable of running top 10. This 250 West is wide open. Who would you take, either one of you, first right now?
All right. Well, I have my team hired already. I'm seeing a lot of red. I have Mumford, Rodriguez, Yoder, and Harrison. They're all pretty cheap. They're all in and around the same price point, and I think at least one of those guys is going to be in the top 10 to get the bonus.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value here in this 250 class looking at it. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and just pick my team while we're at it, since Brad gave me his. I'm gonna start down in the hot stuff and try to maybe save a little money for the 450 class, but I'm gonna go Robbie Wageman. I think he was so good last year. I'm hoping that the break did him well, and he's cheap for a guy that could potentially get a 10th place finish. And then, I think that Max Voland is super cheap because he could do super well. Pierce Brown, I'm gonna go on that train, and I'm probably gonna be frustrated, but he's so dang cheap. How can you not do it? A guy that could potentially get a 3rd or 4th place, and it wouldn't be a surprise. And then I think I agree. Levi Kitchen is also a super good value. So I'm going to go for a bunch of, basically 4th through 6th value with that group, and go look at the 450 class. Otherwise, you would catch me going with Mitchell Oldenburg. I think would be the other guy that I would really look at. And I might swap that out if I can save some money. I haven't looked at the 450 class yet, because they're solid, and I'm worried about spending a ton of money on an RJ Hampshire or a Cameron McAdoo and them not getting it done. And Jet Lawrence is just such a big spend. So right now, at least that's where I'm looking on my team, and something to look at. Don't forget that Politelli's now had a little more time on the 250. I've been riding that train all year. If you need like a really cheap guy, kind of a filler guy that hopefully will at least make the main event. Or don't overlook Dylan Schwartz, I would say. Schwartz was starting to get better at Supercross as the West has gone on. So he's not a fantastic Supercross rider, but if the track's more of an outdoor condition, and maybe they do a little easier build, so it's more of a outdoor style track, Schwartz would be someone to look at. Going over to the 450s, I'll go first on this one, actually. And as I'm taking a look at it, again, there's still the big group in the middle of guys that are injured. But the key here too is that both AC and Christian Craig are no longer red on the screen. But you know who is red and not red for me this week is Justin Hill. So you can about bet that I'm going to be all over that pick. I think that the top 10s continue. I see you have Sealy slotted in here at 200,000. I think you did actually a really good job slotting him in the salary right there. I don't know why it says he's number 114 and not 160, but
Oh, yeah, I didn't know his number at the time, so I just put that in there. He
right
wasn't
on.
yet officially on the entry list, so yeah, he was 14 in the past, so I just had 114. So
Actually,
I was change it.
Number 200 would have been more accurate because I think that's the number he ran for Fun City Suzuki back in the day.
Fun Center Suzuki's, yep. Fun Bike Center, that's what it was.
Fun Bike Center, fun.
Looking towards the top, though, I mean, you got to look at Roxon and or Barsha, but I think definitely Barsha, as good as he's been riding, with the chance of rain, Barsha, Plessinger, they're probably my locks. I don't think I'm going up to the top line here with Webb, Tomac, or Sexton with any of my picks. Again, unless I have the extra budget. But if I have the extra money, I'm going to try to get Jet Lawrence back in the 250 class because I think he's more of a guaranteed win where, you spend a lot of money on Webb, Tomac, or Sexton, and they can win or they can get third or fourth, So those are the guys that really stand out to me. You have Clayson's, if he can stay up, he's been riding really, really well. So he's a guy. And Fast Freddie Noren, if you want to ride that train and hope he gets in the main event, he's had some good main event results at the beginning of the year. And he rides outdoor stuff really, really well. So what about you guys? What are you looking at?
My 450 class, I'm going Sexton, Anderson, Cian Cerullo, and Seeley. Spreading things out pretty evenly there. Leaves me with about $90,000 to play with, but I honestly, it's such the funny thing about this game is that you see that 90 grand there, and you feel like you need to spend it elsewhere. But not that I should be anybody who's giving advice on this game, but a lot of times, like if these are the guys I think are going to do well with the money that I can spend, I just set it and forget it without having to try and like kind of work things around too much and trying to find crazy amounts of value because then I've literally talked myself out of getting decent scores.
Brad, you nailed the nail on the head on that one. I do the exact same thing, and I created this silly game, and I'm a big believer in trying to spend all my money, which doesn't mean that you're going to get the most out of those riders. There's a lot of value in less than that, and I currently have $130,000 left, and I'm trying to figure out where to put it, and especially it's really tough in the 450 class. There's a huge gap. With riders who are injured right now, who are just sitting right there in the middle, Ferrandis, Nichols, Savacci, Cooper, who are out for the year, but yet they take up, 4 spots and about $200,000 gap to get back down to that next group. So
for the record, they're not injured. They're choosing not to race. 2 of them.
Yeah, injured not to race. And they got a red cross next to their name just to tell you, for those of us sitting at home, don't take them because they're not racing. That's just kind of my way of saying, don't do it. But yeah, I got both Hill brothers available, so I'm going with both of them this weekend. It's a home race. I love the value of Barsha and Roxon. They are capable of 2th, 4th, and 5th riders. Like you said, spend a type of money on Webb and Tomac. Who knows what you're going to get out of them? Whereas Jet in the 250 class, you're probably going to get 26 points. I don't have him because I don't have the type of money to get to him. But I believe in Dylan Walsh. I think he's been a pretty solid top 10 rider. I'm going all red in the 250 class as of right now. I got Anthony Rodriguez, Yoder, and Harrison. I think are a great value. Like I said, I have $130,000 left, and I'm not really even sure where I can make that move to jump up.
I'd like to actually ask for the check.
Yeah, people had asked. There was a consideration if you have money left over for 1 week, can you carry it over into your next round, which obviously would bring a whole nother game and a whole nother style of database. But just getting the check would be nice as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind 90 grand. That would help out the BigMX radio empire to build. Guys, I like it.
It would be like baby doll dollars. You don't get them at a strip club.
Damn it. That was actually the case. This is a completely unrelated topic. Up here in Canada, we have something called Canadian Tire, which is a retail store. They have all kinds of crap. It's kind of I don't know, almost like a Target, but it's mostly automotive stuff. And they used to give you back your change in Canadian Tire money. And they would literally have 25 cents, 50 cents, 100 cents Canadian Tire money. And then you used to be able to go to American strip clubs and you'd be flashing hundreds. I'm not even kidding. This is actually something that really happened where you'd be flashing $100 Canadian bills and strippers would go absolutely nuts for 100 cents Canadian Tire money.
Well, we used to race in Niagara Falls, and we'd run over the border into Canada and go to the Sundowner, and yeah, I've never been to too many Canadian strip clubs where they're throwing coins on the stage, because obviously the Canadian dollar is a coin, like a quarter.
The toonie and the
Yeah.
loonie.
Yeah. So when you're hearing change hitting the stage, you're like, where am I right now? I'm clearly in Canada.
Yeah, our smallest bill is a 5. It's totally weird. Yeah, we got rid of the 2 in I was pretty young. And yeah, all we have is the 5, and they're also all different colored monies too. I don't have my wallet with me right here, but yeah, I think our 5's blue, the 10 is purple, the green, the 20 is green, 50's red, and our 100s are brown. And if they're brand new, they smell like maple syrup. I'm not kidding.
Well, oh, yeah, that is. I'm glad we have a Canadian on board here to explain that. It's yeah. When I used to race around the world, and yeah, money is such a cartoon thing of the differences, and from the Australians to the Germans to yeah, and the Canadians were always very unique, and you just set yourself apart. Well done.
Yeah, I like it. I'll DM you guys some Canadian cash. It'll look funny. But I think I like Checker's team. That I like. He doesn't have as much red as I do, but he's also not rolling the dice as much as I am. I like your team, Check's. Not gonna lie.
I don't know about that, because I have Pierce Brown on my team, which is considerably rolling the dice. And honestly, Levi Kitchen still hasn't found consistency in Supercross. I can actually kind of hate my team, but if I blow it up, then I'm going to regret it, because I've been doing the Thursday team thing as long as somebody doesn't get injured or whatever during practice.
It does well, yeah.
So
I think we should always stick with our Thursday teams. I know for a fact that mine get worse as the week goes on.
Yeah, I want to do a little bit of math, just because I think I have a lot of middle value in my team, but I don't have a top heavy hitter guy that will likely win the race. So I have to do a little math in my head and see if this is my Thursday team or if I'm going to do another one. But for now, that's what it is. And that's where it is for the show. So this team will likely beat you guys this week.
Well done.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. It was a really good show. Sorry we went a little bit longer, but there's just a lot to discuss between recapping last week, and then we had a whole new fresh set of riders for this week to talk about, with 250 West finally coming back.
Absolutely. 2 hours and change on the BigMX Radio Seattle pregame show. Thank you guys so much for making some time. Thanks for everybody who taking the time to watch. Subscribe, share with others so that we can continue to grow this and have even more conversation in the chat. We're going to continue to try and grow this. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a single episode. Yeah, get after it. Go riding. Get yourself some race tech suspension stuff, even if you don't win this. And like I said earlier, we are running that contest for a free gold valve kit on Twitter. All you have to do is plead your case, tag the 3 of us, and yeah, make your case as to why you should be the winner. And we will announce it here in 1 week's time. Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. Same bat time, same bat YouTube channel. Appreciate the 2 of you boys making some time for me today. And yeah, we're looking forward to Seattle Supercross.
Absolutely. Much love and respect to both of you. Enjoy both of you. Bring a lot to the table. And fuck Checkers. I haven't said it all night, but
so much for the positivity.
Always good, but pure positivity. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you to Ian. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to followers who listen to us and pay attention. It doesn't go unappreciated.